What's going on, everyone? Two mostly bald guys here. We're going to show you how to replace the strut tower on a 96 F150. It's two-wheel drive, 250,000 miles on it, and the strut mount. If you check back on one of our other videos, I show where the shock actually went through the strut tower. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what all parts we're replacing and the tools that you'll need. This is the new strut tower here. The old one rusted completely out here and the shock went through it. Your spring sits there. The kit comes with that and then all your replacement bolts. That's pretty much it there. All you need really for tools is it's not a strut. They call it a strut tower, but it's not a strut. It's just a spring and a shock here. Let's see if you can see that in there. I'll get the wheel off here in a minute. But yeah, it's just a shock and a spring. Jack the truck up from the frame. It'll relieve all the pressure. We're not going to have to worry about a spring compressor or nothing. The spring will just fall right out after I take that bracket off. And there's a bolt down there we've got to get to. But, of course, you need an impact. Well, you don't need an impact. You can do a four-way, but screw all that noise. We're using air tools today, so it's good to, if you have access to a air hammer. And then you're going to need a breaker bar because there's a nut inside that holds the bottom of the spring down. This right here, need yourself a good grinder. That's the easiest way. Well, correction, that's not the easiest way. If you got a torch, screw all this mess, get you a torch and just blast all the rivets out. That'll be the quickest way possible, but we don't have a torch. After I take the old mount off, I'm going to clean up the frame with this wire brush kit picked up from Harbor Freight. As you guys know, we shop at Harbor Freight a lot.
Harbor Freight!
Harbor Freight! No, they do not sponsor us, but they are cheap. A drill. I don't like replacing batteries, so I have an air drill. Clean up the holes for when you put the new bolts in. You're drilling out the old rivets and putting bolts in to replace it. Other than the air hammer and the grinder, it's pretty much all you need to get it off. Let's get into it. I'm pretty sure you guys all know how to take a wheel off, so I'm just going to go ahead and take that off and get it all jacked up and wheel off and be right back.
And you definitely got to get yourself a manly jack like this little one.
Yeah.
Right here.
This little guy?
Gets everything done. Picks up my diesel, picks up this Ford. Shit.
All the time.
All the time. Doesn't fall. Works. Cheap lift kit. There you go. Let's get in there and show you what she looks like. Yeah, that's a little bad up in there. There's that bolt that you will fight with later.
Yep. Shock came completely out. Rusted all the way through. The spring's about to break through as well. So if you got one of these trucks, they are notorious for these rusting out. So double check it and make sure so you're not driving down the road and it'd give out on you. Alright, so we've got the wheel off. Here's your setup. There's the old mount. We're going to get it replaced. I replaced shocks in this thing, I don't know, about the same time that I posted that video about the 96 F150 shock mount rusted through. The but this side wasn't bad at the time, or that I really cared. But it's time to get it going because now the shock rusted through on this one, and this wheel bounces like basketball. So, I'm going to tell you right now, the main thing that sucks about this project is the brake line. It actually goes through the mount, so you have to separate the brake line. So when you're done, you will have to re-bleed the brake. But to get this out, you got to take this clip, and it's going to break on you more than likely. Both of mine did, the other side and this one. So yeah, you'll knock that clip out. You'll probably have to get you a new one. I don't know, you can pick up a box of circlips, so at Nuts and Bolts or whatever hardware store you got. But there'll be this, and it's threaded on the other side. The actual brake line comes up here. It'll slide out, and you'll be able to separate them. I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll come back. There's a 5/8 fitting out here. It doesn't actually turn or anything like that. You're going to have this circlip. Oops. You're going to have this circlip on the outside, and then that's going to be clipped in out here. And then behind the frame, there's going to be another clip. It's going to be sitting right back here. So basically pull those clips out, pull both the clips off, and then pull it out from the frame. You'll have about that much slack. It's 3/8 on the brake line, unless somebody's changed it. Be careful, of course. I mean, this truck's got 250,000 miles. Hopefully the line don't break. If you're going to do this, when you do this job, start spraying stuff down. I've already been doing that for the past week or two. Get some PB Blaster, spray it on this nut right here. Add them down here. Spray it on that nut down here. Get rid of some of that rust and everything, and spray it back here on this line too, and that'll make it easier to come out. Might help to even spray some up here on this bolt. The other side, it broke, and I had to put a new bolt in. That holds the top of the spring in. But pretty much start drenching those things down. Alright, got the line separated there. Like I figured, the brake line's worn out, and the actual threads won't turn. So I went ahead and took the banjo bolt out of the brake caliper down here. That way I could just spin the line off, and then I'll just do it the same way when I put it back on. I gotta bleed the brakes anyways, so I just went ahead and took the line off. You don't have to do it that way if you can get yours to spin. Mine wouldn't. This truck's seen some miles, so it wouldn't budge. So that's the way I went. So we got the line out. I'm going to go ahead and get the shock out of my way. I don't have to worry about unbolting it up here because it rusted through and, well, it's already detached. So I'm just going to go ahead and get the shock out of my way, take this bolt out down here. It's a 3/4 on both sides. At least this one is. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Here we go. Well, that's that. Shock's out. Now we're going to take that nut right there out. And you're going to need a breaker bar and you're going to need to start pre-soaking this a week or two in advance. I've done this. If you have a torch, maybe to heat it up. Try to think of what ways would be easier. Maybe cut the spring to get it out of your way, and then use an impact. That'd be a lot easier. I might do that. I do have access to an impact, so I'm gonna try the breaker bar first to see how that goes. Oh my god.
Okay, so after you take the socket, you can drop it down through the hole. If yours is rusted out as bad as ours. And then you put your breaker bar on there, and well, you start cussing and kicking, and well, unless you have a torch.
The nut is a 1 1/8. You'll have to drop your socket in from up top there. I'm going to go ahead and tell you now that I'm cutting the spring because I have a brand new spring anyways. I'm going to cut the spring and then just use an impact and take it off that way because this breaker bar is not working. So anyways, there is no pressure on this spring. It's bolted here. It's got a plate that's holding it down on the bottom, and it's got this that just holds it onto the bracket. If I was to take this bracket off here, I could literally just push down on the hub assembly and literally pull the spring out. It's not going to unspring and hit me. So,
all right, round 2 with a different tool.
perfect. We got that cut down here. I'm gonna get the spring out of my way. It's just a 1/2-inch bolt up here. Make sure you, like I said, spray it. You know, start spraying it probably every day or whatever, PB Blaster, whatever, a week or so in advance, and then, because on the other side, this bolt broke. So, like I said, I've been spraying it. This one came right out. There's this bracket. Make sure you save that. The new one, the new strut mount does not come with a new one. Go ahead and show them how that's all rusted through.
You want to take the light? Give me a light.
Just more light up here. Yeah, see, it's all busted all the way through here. That spring was about to go through. That could have been dangerous. The shock went all the way through. Basically, the next step is you've got all these rivets here. They're hard to see, a bunch of rust build up, whatnot, but you got these two here, those two there, and then there's, I think there's 2 or 3 underneath here we gotta get out. Basically, I'm gonna use a grinder. Yeah, that's hot, Adam.
Son of a...
Yeah. I'm going to use a grinder to kind of get me a little notch going here, and then I'm going to use the air hammer and just knock them off. If you got a torch, just cut them off. I'm doing is making notches so that the air hammer has something to get underneath and knock these off. Alright, so we got 2 of the heads off of the rivets. So just grab using your air hammer, just get you this bit here. You'll be able to see the ring of where the rivet goes through the frame on both of these, and then just stick it up to it. There's that one. There's that one. Rivet's out. Once we get these 2 here off and the ones underneath off, it'll be ready to yank that sucker off.
Alright, so it's time to break the bolt off. We still have the 2 more to finish up, but we're kind of giving the grinder a rest for a minute. You probably remember this from the gravel video. It is the truck bed unloader. Works great as a cheater bar. Alright, let's see.
Let's pick it up, reset.
Oops. There we go.
There we go.
And that's the only problem with using the truck bed unloader for a breaker bar is, well, it's as wide as your truck bed. But you don't have to use any real effort. You just kind of set it down on there, and once you catch it, then you just walk with it. Alright, let's get this, we'll work this bolt loose until we can do it by hand.
Alright, we broke it free, so he's going to use the impact now. It should run it off. Alright. Oh, and that little plate down there, when we throw the new spring on, that's got to go inside. But, their spring's completely off. We just got to get the rest of those off. The 2 rivets there. And there's, I believe, 2 more underneath. And then that mount will come off. And get to put the new one on. Okay. There's that one. 2 left. 1 under here. 1 under here. Alright, got them 2 rivets out on the bottom. As you can see, that thing was pretty nasty. Alright, well, this is my wire brush attachment to my grinder. I'm going to go ahead and get that surface cleaned up. Alright, I got the frame cleaned up. A little bit of spray paint on there to cover up that surface before I put the strut tower on. All I've done so far is put a couple bolts in, and nuts are on there, but they're not tight. I want to get all the rest of the bolts in before I start tightening it up. Alright, I got all the bolts in and tight. You can do how you want to do, but in my theory, I started from the bottom 2 bolts and worked my way up. It's got a little part where it bends underneath and sits on the frame there. So I wanted it snug up against the frame as much as I could get it, so I had it pull up to the frame and then hold it tight. So that's how I did it. Do as you wish, but I didn't want it to move on me as I'm going down the road, so I started from the bottom and worked my way up on tightening it. Alright, got the new spring mounted in there. I figured out that you can't use the socket with the new spring because I can't get my breaker bar in between the springs, so I used an 1 1/8" wrench to get it down. Pretty easy. When you do this, make sure that you place a spring in there so that when it goes into the spot where it's supposed to sit, the splat spot lines up with where the bracket will wrap around it. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there and be right back. Alright, I got the spring in there. There's the little band. The bolt that actually was in your truck is a self-tapper, and there's no threads on the deal, but it'll self-tap itself in there. I used a little battery impact to put it in. I'm sure you could do it with a ratchet. Might not be very much fun, but I'm sure you can do it. Alright, I guess I'm going to go ahead and do the brake line. Save the shock for last, but at least the spring's kind of holding everything how it's in place. Yeah, do the brake line now. Well, in the process of putting the brake light on and filling it full of brake fluid, it's getting ready to bleed the brakes, and, well, broke the bleeder screw off trying to loosen it. Thankfully, a new caliper is only $35, so I went and bought a new one. I'm not going to deal with self-tapping and trying to pull the old crap out, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that old caliper, get it set off to the side, get the new brake hardware set up. The new caliper came with, so the pads can slide easier. And when I get that caliper removed, I'll come back. Alright, I got that caliper all replaced and brake bled, so now it's got a good bleeder screw, and I didn't have to do a tap and die. Everything's done under here. Got the new, oh sorry, my lighting is interfering here. Trying to make it so you guys can see. Oh, by the way, these LED lights, they sell them at O'Reilly and AutoZone. And here, let me turn it off. You see how much light that one's putting off. I try to make it as bright as I can for you guys so you can see what I'm pointing at. But they're only like 20 bucks. And I just tuck them up everywhere so you guys can see, but they're LED and I love them. I've got an extension cord that's got multiple outlets on it, and I just plug these things in everywhere where I'm working and make it as bright as I can. But yeah, they're only 20 bucks. But yeah, the strut tower is in. Got my shock all hooked up. Springs mounted. It's got that tab that it hooks into the strut tower on the backside that you can't see. Wraps up and around the spring and then bolts into the strut tower. Down there it's got the nut with that big plate that sits down over the spring. Got that nice and tight. All I got to do now is throw the wheel on, and that's it. It's ready to go. So that's it. Everything's done. Pretty sure you guys know how to put a wheel back on. Made it this far with me. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe. Alright, thanks.